How's it going, YouTube? BT7 bringing you guys another Digimon TCG match. This time it will be me on the left. I'm piloting my blue hybrid list that I've been adjusting, and my opponent is going to be playing the purple hybrids on the right. So just a quick note here at the start of the video, we are playing the mulligan rule. As you can see right here, my opponent decides to roll the dice to decide what he wants to do, if he wants to mulligan his hand or not. We are having the mulligan and sideboard. So this is the first event because we have a few people going to DigiFest. So at locals, we're trying out the mulligan and sideboard option. So my opponent does decide to not mulligan. I decide as well. And here he plays the Bokomon, trying to decide what he wants to take. He takes the Jaeger Lowimon, I believe, and the Koichi on the Bokomon play. Here I just go ahead. There's a little bit of a glare, but it is an Upamon that digivolves into the Strabimon from BT7, I believe. And then I follow it up with a Davis play to choke him at 1, revealing 3 hybrids. I ended up taking the BT4 Strabimon. Here my opponent's going to be at 1 memory, and you can see he's kind of deciding what he wants to do. He does decide to go ahead, set up the Tamer for a future plays. He does have the Bokomon in play, so it's effectively a free Tamer. Pitching the Kari to kind of get it ready for future plays in the game, because there is a way to get the Kari back out of trash, as you'll see later with the purple hybrids. Here I almost swing in with the Strabimon, but I decide, let's get a little bit more cycle, so I digivolve into the Kumamon. I don't have a source to strip, but it does make it so when I swing with this, I can also gain the memory. And then I go ahead, digivolve into Korikakumon for 1. May seem like a waste. Looking back on it, probably wasn't the smartest thing, but it does freeze the Bokomon. He's not going to swing, but you never know, after that chip damage, he might want to do it to prep for the Cherubimon plays. But it does die, ends up hitting the Rihimon in security, and I just pass by playing down Tommy to set up for my next turn. Opponent does decide, he does draw into the rookie, he gets the Lopmon, digivolving into the Jaeger Lowimon. That's the Japanese name, is Jaeger Lowimon, not Kaiser Lowimon, but I'm going to keep with Jaeger, it sounds a little bit better to me. So it's effectively free because the Bokomon gains the memory. If you do have something like Madoki Betamon, it does freeze it, but Syakomon doesn't stop it. But he does go ahead and trying to think about what he wants to do here, looking at the trash, decides to go ahead and set up another Koichi. Here I'm not sure if it's going to be my turn yet, because I never know if Nidhoggmon's in the list, but he ends up pitching a scatter mode, prepping for probably Eismon plays. And so now that Jaeger Lowimon has retaliation, I don't think there's any way I can really deal with that, but it does have the Koichi underneath. So it's, does he want to swing in? Do I want to try to deal with it, strip it if I want to? And I do decide to go ahead, digivolve into the Lobomon, and then digivolve into the Beowulfmon on my turn. Using this effect, I can swing in, I'll freeze the Bokomon, I believe, and then I'll add the Kumamon or the Lobomon back to my hand to bounce back the Jaeger Lowimon. Don't really want to do it, but I'd rather get it off the field and not have retaliation. He can just follow it up next turn anyway, but I kind of wanted to have the other hybrid back in my hand. So here I go ahead and play down a Strabimon, do a little search, passing my opponent back over to 3. I didn't really have any good ways, I think, to keep him any lower, so I figured it was best to get a body on board, even though now he potentially can go into Cherubimon and clear off one of my board. But he digivolves into Jaeger Lowimon for free, swings in. He has retaliation because Koichi was in the sources, so he can just go ahead and take out my Beowulfmon, and then he'll gain the memory off the Koichi. He'll digivolve into the Eismon so that the Lopmon effect is activated, playing the Koichi for effectively 2 memory, and then drawing a card, discarding a card. He does have the Eismon scatter mode in trash, so he can go ahead and play down the Eismon that he discards. So here my opponent has 3 memory to work with, basically, because he already knows I'm going to go to 3. Probably trying not to put me up any more than he can. I expect something like, an Antilamon or another rookie, but the Gazimon does come down. The Gazimon freezes me, stopping anything from gaining memory, which at this point I don't even know if I have a Hammer Spark, maybe 1 in hand. I decide to go in and get the chip with the Strabimon, drawing a card off the Upamon. He has several Digimon without sources. It does end up dying to a Lopmon. I never expected it to really live. But here I'm trying to decide, what are we going to do? I think I do have the Korikakumon in hand, so I digivolve into the Lobomon so I can digivolve into 1 into the Korikakumon, just for more cycle, a little bit more efficiency. And then I freeze one of the Eismons. Here, trying to figure out, you can see I do have the Hammer Spark in hand, trying to decide how I'm going to do. I have 2, it looks like. I just go ahead and prep a Tommy play, strip the 2 sources underneath the Eismon so he can't get cheaper Tamers out. Passing the turn over to 3. Again, with the Gazimon on field, can't really memory choke as much as I probably would want to. And here he digivolves into the Gabumon, trying to see what he has in trash. Swings in with the other Eismon. Does live. Eismon is kind of big. He has, it's at least 7k, I think. He has at least one Eismon in trash. Here he does play the Kari, which makes me glad that I did strip the sources of the Lotmon, so I don't have to worry about the Kari coming down for 2. And then he just go ahead and sets up a second Kari. So now I have to deal with that. Every time I swing the security, I could possibly lose 2 memory, effectively, because he gains the memory. Digivolving, passing the turn over to me, I digivolve into BT6 Strabimon. With the Korikakumon, I decided to wipe out the field with or kill the suspended Eismon just to not have it for the future. Using Korikakumon, or using Tommy, I digivolve into Korikakumon to freeze the Eismon. I swing in with the Korikakumon using the effect to freeze the Gazimon, so I don't have to worry. He's not going to swing with either of these, so it's really not that big a deal, but just in case, I do only have 3 security. He does suspend the Karis. On the security check, I die to a Cherubimon, but he does suspend the Karis, leaving him at 1 memory. So here he promotes up the Gabumon. I do have 3 security. I have 2 checks, effectively with a Tamer and a Korikakumon in the back, possibly. Swings in with the Gabumon. It does not die, ends up hitting the Sora and Joe, which is kind of upsetting because, of course, you always want to have that something with a cycle effect like Demi-Marimon to die, but he does have the Call from Darkness to delete, I believe that's what it's called, Call from Darkness, to delete it so he can delete 1 Digimon and then grab 2 more purple Digimon from the trash. So here he's trying to decide what he wants to do. You can in fact delete the Digimon and then grab the Digimon because of the timing on the effect, because it does end up in the trash. It's a then effect. But what he ends up doing is taking the Eismon and Jaeger Lowimon, so he has plays, as in right here, to go into the Koichi to gain the Jaeger Lowimon retaliation, swinging into the Korikakumon. They're just going to crash anyway. They have 6k, so it doesn't even matter about the retaliation, but he does gain the memory off the Koichi effect. And here he's going to go ahead and digivolve into the Antilamon. Antilamon does let you play a level 3 cost from the trash, 3 cost Tamer. So he just goes ahead and plays the Kari. But because I hit the Sword Joe out of security, I do in fact have 5 memory to work with. So here, one unfortunate thing is I don't have a level 4 hybrid to digivolve any of my Tamers into. So I go ahead and I swing in with the Strabimon, suspending the Sora Joe to strip the source to try to draw into one. Do end up dying to another Antilamon. He activates all 3 Karis to gain 3 memory, putting me at 2. As you can see, I still don't have the hybrid, but I do have the Ice Wall to kind of deter a push for game. And then I'll just go ahead and play Strabi to have a body on board, just in case I don't draw it if he can't remove it. I take the Magna Garurumon off the effect and then pass my opponent to 2. So now I'm feeling a little bit safer. He does have the Pokemon, so he can effectively digivolve once for free and then get 2 checks in, but I don't know if I don't think the list runs anything like Jack Raid. At least I hadn't seen anything out of security or from his hand, so I'm not as worried about him just being able to gain a couple of memory to then swing for that final push. So here my opponent he digivolves into the Gazimon, swings in with the Pokemon, it does die to the big Strabimon, and he does end up having the Cherubimon to pop my Gazimon, my Strabimon, but now I'm at 6 memory. As long as I can top deck a rookie, I'm kind of good to go, or a level 4 hybrid, I'm kind of good to go with. Here he plays the Koichi off the Cherubimon effect, pitching the Eismon to get another body on board. So here I digivolve into the Strabimon, and I do in fact top deck the level 4 hybrid. Very close game because Ice Wall does still come in as a 1-of, so just remember that if you have playing blue, you should definitely still run it, because it definitely saved me that game where I couldn't find my hybrids. On to game 2 here, you see where we were both mulligan. I think my starting hand just basically had nothing playable. I think it just had level 4 hybrids, which is kind of sad because I think I did have to bottom deck a Korikakumon, but this hand was a little bit more manageable. I did have the Davis for a little bit more search. So my opponent passes over. We both ended up mulliganing. I think his hand looks a little bit better than mine did. He does end up have a rookie and follow up with a Pokemon. So off of the Pokemon, he will reveal 3, make that 4 level 4 hybrids. So there's a low chance that I'm going to have to worry about seeing as many of them. But here he tries to decide what he wants to take. Usually, in my opinion, you would almost always take Jaeger Lowimon, because if you do end up finding the Koichi, you can give it retaliation. You see he does have the Rihimon in hand too, so he can recycle Tamers. as well. But here I'm going to go to 3 anyway, so he decides to go ahead and drop the Eismon so that he can have the most efficient memory and then have the draw and cycle in the next turn. Here I Digivolve into the Strabimon, I do get it, drop the Tommy, no sources to strip, but I can Digivolve into the Korikakumon using his effect since it is a Tommy in the sources to freeze the Eismon, so I don't have to worry about it swinging, thankfully. And here I pass my opponent to 2. He does not have a Memory Tamer. So my opponent's trying to decide what he wants to do. Go ahead and Digivolve into the Jaeger Lowimon for 1 because Eismon is in fact a level 4. And then it lets him use the new purple option Shores to clear my board because he does have a hybrid on the field, passing me to 5, but he doesn't really want to do it, but you kind of have to. So here I Digivolve the Korikakumon on top of the Strabimon. That way it does activate his effect to freeze the Bokomon, swing it into security, and it does in fact hit a Kari, so it lives. But unfortunately I kind of didn't want it to live. I think I do have a Koichi in hand, so I was trying to hope to play it, but it's not the worst thing because now he does have to deal with it. And here I will Digivolve or hard play the Tommy to strip the source underneath the Gabumon. The reason I strip the source under the Gabumon is because I don't really want the scatter mode to end up in trash, just in case he does have plays for like Eismon, and he does decide to go ahead and crash into my Korikakumon to get rid of it. This does trigger my Strabimon effect to play the Koichi in my hand, so effectively still doing what I wanted to do last turn. And then here he will Digivolve into the Eismon scatter mode on top of the Gabumon, get more cycle and prep that for the following turn, and I'll go up to my 3 because of Davis. So here I'll Digivolve into the Strabimon in Raising. I believe it's an Upamon underneath, and then try to dig for some more hybrids. I don't really think I have the hybrids. I have tons of Tamers, but not as many level 4 hybrids. So I play the Strabimon. It sucks to see the Ice Wall go, and then all I can really do is play another Strabimon to search. I do find another Beowulfmon and a Tommy, but I think at this point I had 2 or 3 Beowulfmons in my hand, so I didn't really want to see all the Beowulfmon. And here he swings in with the Eismon, in fact hitting the Beowulfmon, which kind of sucks for me for multiple reasons. One, I'm not going to end up seeing that BT4 Beowulfmon, and then also he gets to effectively draw 5 cards and discard 3 cards, as you can see here, using the effects in tandem to pitch 2 Eismon, flooding the field with more Eismon. He does have 2 scatter modes in trash currently, so now both of these Eismon are 9k, which is kind of a big deal, kind of hard to deal with. He does evolve one of the scatter modes into, or one of the regular Eismon into Antilamon, cycling back, I think Koichi, and then getting the draw, pitching the Mat, and then getting the Digivolve into Cherubimon, replaying the Mat, triggering the effect, taking out both of my Strabimons, and then cycling a little bit more with the Mat. So here, I'm kind of in a bad spot. This is my only hybrid. The Kumamon is, I believe, so I'm able to strip 1 source, and then I can Digivolve into the Beowulfmon, swinging in, using the effect. I believe I'm using the effect of Tommy to freeze the... Here I say Eismon, but then I decide that's probably not the best idea. I can bounce it instead of bouncing the Bokomon. So I freeze the Bokomon, bouncing back the Eismon. Now that I think about it, it was a free evolution, so I think I probably should have bounced back the Bokomon and then frozen the Eismon. But I do end up dying to an Antilamon in security, swinging in, and then hitting another Eismon with my Strabimon. So here I'm at 1 memory. I don't really have any good plays. You can see my hand is kind of stacked with Tamers, which is kind of unfortunate, not enough hybrids. But I decided to go ahead, drop the Tommy, prep for future plays. Maybe I can still save this by stripping the source underneath the Cherubimon, maybe freezing it, as long as he can't kill the Cherubimon. But here he does end up having the other Bokomon when I pass the turnover, and he can go ahead and search out. He gets the Koichi, and I believe that's a Rihimon, or no, it's a Lowimon. He does reveal the Cherubimon, and we just, it didn't matter to me, but we swap out the Cherubimons to have the pretty one. Alt-Art Cherubimon is just so good. And he does Digivolve the Koichi, effectively gaining 4 memory, so he gains 2 memory for Digivolving, swinging in with the Jaeger Lowimon. It does live, so he doesn't gain the memory, but then he can swing in with the Cherubimon, get another check. So right now he has 4 checks on board, make that 5. This is where I'm messing with him about already activating the Bokomon effects for him, because they are mandatory. They both have to activate at the same time. You cannot choose. Swinging in with the Jaeger Lowimon, it does live. So now I have to deal with 5 checks on board and a Tamer. And it doesn't pretty much matter what he's going to pass me to 3 at least anyway, but I'm already in a bad spot. He only has 2 security, but I don't think he's going to be able to pass me to enough memory. With that Gazimon on the field, I can't really gain the memory that I want to. So passes me over to 3. I hatch the Kiaramon, Digivolve, and the Syakomon. Not really going to do anything for me right now in my hand. He hasn't He hasn't worried about digivolving the Rihimon, and I don't think he really needs to at this point. Most of his tamers are in sources. He does have some in trash, but here I'm trying to decide how I get out of this. There's a couple of plays I can do. I believe I have enough hybrids in hand to stop, to bounce something back with the Magna, but that's all I really have to do. So I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. I don't think there's any way I get out of this game. I do have a Hammer Spark in hand to gain a little bit of memory, but Gazimon stops that. So what I decided to end up doing is here digivolving into the Kumamon, stripping the source underneath the Lowimon that does have retaliation, and then digivolving into Beowulfmon for 1 because there is a tamer in the source. And here I'm trying to decide which Lowimon to swing at. This is where he notified. I double checked that the one I stripped the source of does still have retaliation. So I swing over the one that doesn't have retaliation. I believe I freeze the Cherubimon with the Tommy effect, and then I bounce the Gazimon. So I have a little bit of memory to work with, but at the same time, I don't think it saves me. I'm just hoping he doesn't have another hybrid, because I don't really have any way to deal with another hybrid. I know I saw him bottom deck, but he has cycled a lot with 2 Bokomons and plenty of draws, so there's a chance we're back around to where those hybrids were that he bottom decked at the start of the game, not counting what may have been in his hand from the mulligan. And here I decide my only out is a Hammer Spark and security, so I digivolve into the Koichi into Kumamon and just hope that he doesn't see a hybrid, which he actually doesn't have a hybrid in hand, but he does have the Gazimon and an open baby in the back. So what he does is he digivolves into the Gazimon, does end up revealing the Lowimon, probably the same one from the start of the game. Doesn't hit a hybrid or a Hammer Spark and security, so that will be game 2. So we're going to go on to game 3. It was a good game, but I stopped seeing my hybrids, and he ended up finding them when he needed them. So on to game 3. Here I decide to hatch, but I am going first, but I forget that we have mulligan rules, which my opponent does decide to mulligan. So I take back the hatch. It's not really going to matter. I'm still going first. I'm going to hatch no matter what, but I wait, and he does decide to mulligan, so I'll hatch, digivolve into the Strabimon, and then play the Davis, grab the Korikakumon, of course. I already have the Koichi in hand, so I'm not super worried about him going to the bottom. And this does set me up for future plays. I do have 4 memory to work with and a rookie in raising, which is pretty good. So my opponent will go ahead and drop the Bokomon down. Here he reveals 2 Laui, a Rihi, a Koichi, and a Gazi. Probably hates to see the Gazi go, but he does get the Koichi and the level 4 Lowimon, so this does have him ready for future turns. And here I kind of expect him to go ahead and drop the Koichi, but he decides to go ahead and drop down, I think, an Eismon. Yeah, you can see him pick it up in his hand, and this way he has some cycle for the following turns. So on my turn, I go ahead and raise up the Strabimon, swing in, don't really care if it dies, get a little bit of cycle with the Upamon because he does have Digimon without sources. And here I play the Tommy, no sources to strip, which is not really what I'm worried about. I can Digivolve into the Korikakumon for 2, freezing the Eismon. So now I don't have to worry about him getting cycle off the Eismon if it does die in security. And here is when he sets up the Koichi, doesn't have the Nidhogg to gain the memory, so the turn does pass over to me. And I go ahead, hatch in Upamon, Digivolve into BT7, Strabimon in the back. Here you can see I have the Beowulfmon in hand, and I think I go ahead and Digivolve into it. This way I can basically clear the board or freeze the board. So I bounce the Korikakumon back to my hand, freezing the Bokomon, and it does end up living, the Beowulfmon does, to a mat, which isn't really what I want to see. Here he's trying to decide what he wants to get out of trash, if he wants to get the Kari or the Cherubimon. He wants to take the Kari, but then we both remember that Matt doesn't let you take a tamer, it only lets you take an option or a Digimon. So takes the Cherubimon, and then I go ahead and play the Sword Joe, passing him over to 4 or 3, now that he's going to go ahead and have the 3 with the Matt from security. So now my opponent has a Gazimon in the raising area, and he does have the hybrid. We saw it early in the game, so now he basically has a free hybrid, no way to stop me, or stop him from gaining the memory. So you see he promotes up the Koichi, thinking he has the Jaeger Lowimon, but he only has the regular Lowimon. Still a free Digivolve, and he can play the Antilamon, drawing a card and playing back the Kari. And here we know he has the Cherubimon, so I'm kind of expecting him to go ahead and Digivolve into the Cherubimon, and he does. Here he says target the Beowulfmon, but Cherubimon only pops level 4 and below, so the Beowulfmon does stay. So he passes me over to 4. I do miss the Sorjo activation here. I should have 6 memory. It's the only time I think I miss it, because normally it does come up a lot. But I'm in a pretty good position here, as he only has 2 or 3 security left. I do have plenty of swings. I decide to go ahead and Digivolve into the Kumamon first before I swing in with the Beowulfmon, and then swing in with the Beowulfmon, activate Sword Joe's effect, stripping the bottom 2 sources, and then stopping the Cherubimon from attacking. That way, hopefully the balloon doesn't pop and he doesn't swarm the field in the following turn without me being able to stop him. But here I can Digivolve the Kumamon into the Korikakumon, freezing the Bokomon so I don't have to worry about that as well, drawing a card off of the Upamon. I end up not dying. I hit a Lowimon in security, so I don't get to just freely play the Koichi in my hand, but I decide to go ahead and set up the Koichi for the following turn, passing my opponent over to 3. I do have the Magna in hand at this point, maybe enough hybrids, but at this point I think I'm in a pretty good spot unless he can clear my board with like the option, but he does reveal it right there off of the Bokomon. It does not have it in hand. Playing another Bokomon, cycling through. He only has 1 Kari. I do have 3 security. It looks like I do miss the Sora Joe effect again, but at this point he only has the 1 security left. I'm still full on security. Swinging with the Beowulfmon, hit a Kari, and then swinging with the Korikakumon, ending the game. So I will get that set 2-1. As you can see from this game, the Tommy Lock is pretty hard to deal with if you can't really get rid of it. More so, Korikakumon is an issue as well, because Korikakumon being able to just Digivolve on top of any hybrid to also get the effect off, even if it's a level 3, but it being able to Digivolve on top of level 4 for 1 to cycle a little bit more, and also freeze because you have a hybrid in the source is really, really strong. There's been several games where I've just recycled the Korikakumon when I couldn't see Tommy, and just being able to constantly freeze the board is really where the deck gets it. I'm glad that Ice Wall got banned. Like, even playing the deck, if Ice Wall wasn't limited down to 1, then just having that along with the Tommy is just really, really, really oppressive, and I'm glad that it's out of the game. Now the deck feels much more fair. It requires a little bit more skill. There is just plenty of Tommy Lock going on, but now you have to think about your plays before you just go ahead and go burr, freeze the board. So other than that, guys, that will be the end of the video. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to subscribe, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below if you want to see any different deck profiles or different decks that you kind of want to see on the channel. I'll try to get a few videos of those in the coming future. But until next time, guys, have a good one, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Later.